the podcast Sip, Spark, and Share. I'm Sarai.
And I'm Alexandra.
And together we're going to walk you through today's episode on mental health.
Yes, because you know we need it.
Oh, yeah. That it's so important to talk openly about mental health?
I think it's extremely important to talk about mental health openly because there's a stigma attached to it. Yes. And I feel like we need to get rid of it, and we need to be able to express ourselves and normalize the talking about your mental state, your mental health, and your well-being.
I agree. It's definitely important because not a lot of people want to express how they're feeling, but then they're going through something. It makes them a little unhappy or bitter. And then that does have a domino effect where it would affect the people that are around you.
Absolutely.
So we should be talking about it more. But before we do, can you just break it down to us and explain what is the difference between having a mental health issue and a mental health illness?
Okay. I'm glad you asked that question because a lot of people get it confused.
Yeah.
When you have a mental health issue, people are normally talking about the state that your mind is currently in. Okay. So you can be healthy or unhealthy. So if you're waking up and you're having a bad day, you're sad, you're depressed, you're gloomy, you're bloated, whatever the case may be.
I get a lot of that.
Yeah, we get a lot of those. That's just how your mental health is feeling and is currently at the moment.
Okay.
When you have a mental health illness, it's completely different. It's a diagnosed condition from a professional.
Okay.
A professional
not
who
your
went to
friend
school.
Who said you got
not
so
your friend. That's your best friend. That's my therapist. No.
Okay.
A professional that diagnosed you with a mental health condition, an unhealthy one.
Yes. Like what? Depression, I'm assuming?
It can be depression,
anxiety.
It can be anxiety, bipolar, whatever the case may be. There's various types of conditions.
OCD, I think that falls into one of them. Okay.
It's a bunch of conditions.
Yeah.
And all of these conditions would be affecting your behavior, your state of mind, obviously, your mood.
Okay. So that is the difference. One, it's how you're currently feeling, like health-wise, whether you're having a good day, bad day, because it could be a good mental health, but it could also be a bad mental health. Yes. And the other one are just like those diagnostics of depression, anxiety, and so on.
Yes.
Okay. So with that being said then, where would you say that your mental health falls in today on a scale of like 1 to 10, and why?
Okay, so today, currently, I would say that my mental health would be from a 1 to 10. I would say a 7.
A 7. Okay, and why do you feel like it's a 7?
I would say a 7. I would say that it's a 7, and I would confidently say that because I was at a 2.
Okay. Wow, that's really
I was at a 2. And I know what it is, and I know what it feels like to be at a 2. So comparing, this is me diagnosing myself. Comparing to where I was at to where I'm at now. I would say that I went up a couple notches, and I'm a 7. I feel healthy. I know I can be healthier, but I feel good. I feel positive.
Okay.
Yes. Where do you think yours is at?
Well, for me, mine has currently, I would say, gone down by a number.
Okay.
And I would say just one number.
Okay.
And I felt when it had declined. And I'm slowly working my way back up.
Okay.
So I would say that right now I am at an 8 because I let a couple of things or a couple of thoughts in my head that I was supposed to immediately turn down.
Okay.
But I didn't.
Okay.
I let them get in.
That's
I
normal.
let them marinate and outstay their welcome.
Normal.
But I am making sure that they leave me as of right now. But that you could actually feel the difference once you really get to know yourself. Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Like you really can.
Yeah.
So now, when did you discover that you had a mental health issue or that something wasn't completely right with you? Like at what age did you say, oh wow, something's up?
I would say that I recognized it when I was, not while I was pregnant with my with my first child, but maybe after.
Okay.
After is when I realized that I had a mental health, like a crisis, like I was going through a crisis. However, I think that I did have mental health issues before that.
Okay.
I think that I think that I was aware after I had my daughter.
Okay.
I think I took action after I had my son.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that I had them from a very, very, very early age, when I had certain traumas happen to me.
Yeah.
And I just continued to just let them slide, and I didn't do anything about it. So I think that from a very early age, so to answer your question, I think from a very early age, I did have some type of mental health problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I was aware of it after my daughter, so that would be like 30.
Okay.
And then I took action after my son, which would be, I was 30. I don't know if I was 33 or 32.
I would say, if I remember correctly, I think you were around 32 when you started
32.
Opening up, talking about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's big.
That's a big gap.
Big gap.
That's a big gap.
Yes,
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 it is.
yes,
And I
yes. What
think,
about
and
you?
this is why I think it's so important.
Yes.
Because I think most people
Mhm.
do recognize it early on,
Mhm.
but they don't give it an importance because they just think like, oh, that's just me.
Yeah.
It's just
There's
a me
lot,
thing.
A lot of people label you, so you think it's part of your personality.
Exactly.
You start growing into this character.
Yes.
And then I also was like, all right, well, this is me. It's a little too late. And I got into that.
Yeah.
When do you think, what about you?
Okay, so for me, it's a little bit different.
Mhm.
So I, growing up, didn't feel like I had any issues at all.
Mm-hmm.
I did, though, feel that I was definitely different than my peers.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, I was. I think I was just more mature
Okay,
than them. I
yeah.
did grow up really fast.
Yeah, you did.
So that didn't allow me to enjoy most of my childhood. Like, I did have one,
Mhm.
but at the same time, I was always thinking as an adult,
Mhm.
right? So because of that, I was always very self-aware of who I was.
Mhm.
So I didn't feel like I had anything. Now, when I got older, and I would say after I had my son,
Okay.
and I had my son fairly early, I was already, I believe, 20 when I had him, I felt a change in me.
Okay.
Now, that change, I felt like was a mix of me being a mother.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
It definitely had to do with motherhood. It had to do with also finding out that my son was diagnosed with autism.
Mhm.
So that was big. It was like, here I am, I'm this young mother, I'm having a child, and then on top of that, my child is diagnosed with a condition,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So there was a lot of just things going on, but I powered through. You know me, you know my personality.
Mhm.
I'm like, whatever, we got to get through it. Doesn't matter
Yeah.
what it is. So I went on in life, but I felt like there was a steady pause for me
Mhm.
where I was kind of like just on autopilot,
Yeah.
just doing what I needed to do, but that was it.
Survival mode. That's
I
what
was
they call
in
it.
survival mode,
Mhm.
yes.
Mhm.
So because I was in survival mode, right when I'm about to turn 33, which is the age of Jesus, and I point this out because I do have a story that goes with this. So at the age of 33 was when I had my awakening. And right before me having that awakening at 32,
Mhm.
was when I began to feel like there was this emptiness in me.
Mhm.
Right? Not necessarily a mental health issue, but just like a void. Like I knew that there was more to life and I just didn't know how to grasp it. So that gave me a little bit of depression because I'm just like, wow, I'm about to turn 33. What am I really doing for my life? Even though, mind you, I was doing things, but it didn't feel good enough for me.
Yeah.
So I was going into a little hole, right?
Mhm.
So then at 33 came, I had this awakening, but this awakening did not come to me in like beautiful moment, everything's great and happy. No, I actually went through a mental health crisis.
A crisis, yeah.
Like it was horrible. I hit my rock bottom. So the minute I hit my rock bottom,
Yeah.
right? And I will tell you guys the story in a second,
Yeah.
but let me just get through this part. I hit rock bottom, and immediately for me, it was like, I need to seek help.
Mhm.
It wasn't like, oh, I hit rock bottom and we're going to try to work this out.
Mhm.
No, I was like, I need to see somebody. If not, I'm going to go fucking crazy.
Yeah.
That's how bad it was.
No, yeah.
So at the age of 33, my Jesus year,
Yeah.
which I will never forget till this day,
Nobody will.
I hit the floor, but
Yeah.
I rose up like never before.
Yeah.
So that was the age for me.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
I can't wait till she says that story.
Yes. Now, how do you go against your inner thoughts? Like the first thing that come to your mind
Mhm.
that you know it's not good.
Mhm.
How do you push those thoughts away? Like how do you get through, your mind when
Yeah.
it's feeding you all
Yeah.
this BS,
Yeah.
right? Because that's
Yeah.
all it does most of the time
Yeah.
when you're in like that dark hole or
Mhm.
circle.
Mhm.
How do you maneuver through it so that you don't get stuck? what's the method for you, or what have you discovered or are still discovering?
Yeah. So it took me a long time to know the answer to that question. What I do now currently is I stop.
Yeah.
When I'm like, so I'm thinking negative thoughts, and which happens
all
the time. If it's let's say you're having a bad day or whatever, that can eat at you. So what I usually do is I take a pause and I talk to myself out loud. I know that it sounds funny.
Yeah.
But I literally talk to myself in the third person. So I sit down and I say, Alexandra. And I usually look for a mirror.
That's good.
So I'll like look for a mirror and I'll look at myself and I say, Alexandra, hey, get it together. And then I just start talking to myself and I start praising myself. Like I talk nicely about myself and I say, listen, you've gotten this far and this, that, and the third. And I just they call it affirmations. Yeah. But I kind of just I like to say that I boost myself up.
Okay.
And I smile. So it took me a while. It took me a long time to look in the mirror and smile. I could never look at myself in the mirror. Like I'm talking about when I was at my 1-2 stage. I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. I would always look down, or I would always look at the mirror and just hysterically start crying because I didn't know who that was. I couldn't even, I mean, it seems so small and it seems so silly, but I would challenge you guys to look at yourselves in the mirror and just tell me. Leave it in the comments.
Seriously.
No, I'm being dead serious.
Like seriously, try it.
Like just look at yourself in the mirror.
Put the mirror in front of you and stare at it.
Yeah.
Standing, not sitting.
Yeah.
And if you want to take it to the next challenge, do it while you're wearing absolutely nothing.
Yeah, you gotta be.
No, because some people can't even do it with clothes on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So having no clothes is an extra challenge.
Yeah. So then that's what I usually do. And then I also I call you. When I do. I call you and I tell you. So what I usually do is I'll call Sarai and I'll be like, just listen.
Yeah.
And then I just vent and vent and vent and vent and vent. And then it usually comes to tears because I'm a crybaby. So it usually come with tears. And then like when I'm done,
I'm like, you ready for solutions?
She's like, are you ready for solutions? And then it depends.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, no, I just needed to hear myself out loud. And then she'll be like, okay. Or we'll go and she'll just tell me,
I'll walk her through her own thoughts.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But that's what I usually start doing. What do you start doing?
For me, it's very similar. I talk out loud to myself.
Yeah.
I definitely do. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a Spanish thing.
I don't know.
But I need to keep myself in check and I need to hear myself. Keep myself in check. Yeah. So I do allow the thoughts to come in. So that's why I told you that when I was at that 9, I went down to the 8. It was because I allowed it to come in. I let it overstay its welcome a little bit too much. But I'm glad that I did because now I know what to do. So I let it come in. I call it my ego. I let my ego talk to me, right? Because I know my ego is still trying to preserve us, right? And the reason why is because everything that we've done to get to where I am right now, it has helped me, right? So ego's having a hard time letting Sarai go. And I tell her, I'm like, I'm not letting you go. You just need to sit down for a bit and let me take the lead. Like, we are going to get out of your comfort zone. So this is how I talk to myself. Yeah. We're going to get out of the comfort zone.
But this is good.
And we're going to try it my way now. I appreciate everything that you've done, but let me try it. And if I fail, come back. I'm still here. But let me try it. So me talking that way, and then sometimes I'll make a joke out of it. I'll start laughing. Yeah. Other times I'm crying because I'm like, let me try. Like, no, seriously, let me try. Don't tell me I'm going to fail right away, right? Because it's that inner voice that eats at you. And I think once you're able to have a conversation with it and understand that, no, you're a boss, right? It changes the game.
It does.
It may sound crazy. You may think, oh, these two girls are like insane.
Yeah, but no.
But you're not.
No.
It really does help.
Yeah.
And then once you do have that talk out loud, then start small steps practicing it. Like maybe read a self-help book. Yeah. Maybe just put on a positive motivational podcast. Yeah. Like this one, hopefully. There's many things that you can do, but don't just let the thought eat at you. Yeah. So if you're not at the step where you can listen to it and you just need to shut it up, then shut it up. Because I've done that before. I would let it come in. I would immediately be like, nope, not today. Yeah. Today we are doing this. I don't even want to hear you. I don't want to think of like, you have to have that assertiveness. And it takes a lot of confidence and self-will to shut those thoughts off. Yeah. So that's what I did.
Yeah. Also, you can also write. If you're not good at the talking and stuff like that or looking, you can also write it down. I did that too. I wrote down, and I would do crazy writing because I like writing a lot. I like to see it. I like pen and paper and stuff.
And I went into poetry. I went writing, which I used to do it when I was younger, and I went back into it where I write my emotions in the form of poetry. A lot of people think that I'm either talking about them or talking about something very specific, and it's not. It's about so many either past things or things that I just think about. I put it in there, I let it go, and it feels amazing. Yeah. Or you could even listen to music. The music is great. That mellows you out. Some people, though, I say, if you're having a bad day, if you do listen to, and I wouldn't say negative music, just sad music.
Yeah, it makes it worse.
It's gonna make it worse, guys. Like, that's not what you want to listen to.
Yeah. You gotta put something.
And sometimes we like that. Like, that's a guilty pleasure of mine. I'm not gonna lie.
So when I'm feeling like, I put on my bachata.
Yes.
You know, I love that. So I put those heartbreak songs, and nobody can say I will listen to it. I could be drowning, and I'll put me on bachata.
And I'm like, can we change that for today? She's like, no.
No. Okay, so. All jokes aside, why do you think it's important to seek professional help when you're facing this mental health crisis?
Oh my God, because if you don't, just imagine, if you don't seek mental health. Well, let's just imagine so this is where I'm going to tell you my story, because this is a good reason why you should.
Yeah.
So at the age of 33, I decided to go on a wonderful vacation with my girls. We went on vacation. When I say we had an amazing time, we had an amazing time. Well, guess what? I decided, usually when I go on vacation, you know this, I let myself go. I'm not so uptight.
I don't know anything.
You weren't there.
No, thank God. Thank God. I think it would have been two.
Yeah, it would have been two mental health crises. So we decided to take an edible. Right? When I say I'm really underestimating. We took a whole bag, or I should say I had a whole bag of edibles because, one, we were playing a game. We were drinking. First of all, let me start from the beginning.
One thing led to another.
We were drinking, having a good old time, playing games, eating edibles. You know that I'm a sweet person.
Yeah.
I love sweets. Like, that's my thing. So I'm eating these little edibles that look like little cookies and tasted like little cookies.
Yeah, they do. They usually do.
They were delicious. I kept just eating the cookies. They were good. I was drinking. And then next thing you know, I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my God.
Like, what is going on? Like, I literally overdosed. What happened was I overdosed on edibles.
You can overdose on edibles, guys.
Yeah, but...
And then you mixing it.
Yeah, so the mixture of it, I time traveled.
I can't. She just jumped right into it.
Because I did. Like, this is what happened. I time traveled.
Okay.
I was literally sitting on a couch. I walked to the kitchen. When I made it to the kitchen, I'm like, how did I get here if I was over there? Like, how did the traveling happen? I was stuck on that. We're laughing, good old time, everything's great. Prior to me going on this trip, I've been talking about this is my Jesus year. It's going to be my best year. Well, Jesus came to me. Yeah. All right? Yeah. I saw him. I hallucinated on top of that. Yeah. I saw black and white on the wall, very specific pictures. I felt like something was trying to come and get me.
It's funny now when it wasn't.
To the point that it took me, I say, a good month for that to leave my system. So what happened was I immediately went into like a little panic attack. Yeah. Where I felt like after I came after it, at any point, any given time, something was going to come after me. Like, to be able to hallucinate on a drug that doesn't even do that says a lot. Yeah. Right? So it fired my mentee. It did something where a switch went off. And after that, I was not fine ever since. Like, it was horrible. Once I went through that, now remember, prior to me going on this trip, that prior year, I was already feeling a certain way. Like there was an emptiness, there was a void, something was going on. I take this, which I'm not accustomed to. I don't do this at all. Only when I get on vacation. Yeah. So my body's already not used to it. The mixture of me already having back thoughts, me taking this, if you want to call it, what is it, a substance?
No, it's an edible.
It's a freaking edible. It's nothing edible. Even that serious.
Yeah, no, it's just an edible.
The combination of it fired me up.
Yeah.
it opened me up in a way where I started being more vocal. I started telling people my story, which, mind you, I'm a very reserved person. Only my closest people know about me, but I was very open. I was like, I need to seek help. Something's not right. Apart from what I saw, and what I saw was something very personal to me and spoke to me, and it let me know certain things. It was kind of like a spiritual thing with an awakening, with it happened at the right time for the right reasons. I went, I sought help. The therapist guided me through, but it wasn't until I spoke to a friend of mine that I explained the situation of what I was going through, that they helped me understand that what happened to me had nothing to do with me going crazy. It didn't. What happened to me was my subconscious brought up things that I was already thinking of it. And it just brought it up in that way because that substance does have you more relaxed. And if you take too much of it, you can start thinking and seeing things. So once I knew that it wasn't that I was schizophrenic, because that's what I thought, I said, oh my God, that did run in my mother's side of the family. Maybe I am one. And I started panicking. When they broke it down to me and I literally understood, it all just subsided. Like it completely went away. But had I not opened up to one close friend, and had I not gone to a therapist, I would still be to this day second guessing, doubting, and looking over my shoulders like I was going to die.
You would have drowned it.
I would have drowned it.
Yeah. And sometimes that's why it's extremely important. That's why it's extremely important that when you feel like you're going through some type of crisis, some type of issue, you have to open up, you have to talk to somebody.
And even if you're not the type of person like me, I wasn't the type to talk about my business or anything, but at that point I was like, it's either I talk or I don't know what's going to happen to me. So I'm so happy that I was able to find a good therapist and to have that person that I felt comfortable enough to let them know what happened. Because I didn't go to you first.
No.
And I've known you for the longest. But because you also have this embarrassment of, I don't want you to think or look at me a certain way. You sometimes don't tell the person that you think that you would normally tell. You found out afterwards, I told you, but it was just like...
I wouldn't have known what to... Like, if you would have came to me and you would have said that to me, I would have probably just said, listen, go to a therapist. Because I wouldn't know how to handle it. Because of just the way that I look at you.
Well, this person was in medical field, so they already knew what it does. So they guided me in the right way. But it wasn't so much of a guide. It was just someone just telling me 3 simple things and breaking it down. It just clicked like that for me. So
sometimes that's all it takes. That's why it's important. You have to. You can't let yourself drown.
No.
Sometimes we're our own worst enemies. We don't want to speak up. We either because of embarrassment, because of guilt, because of...
I didn't want to tell that story to anybody, that I overdosed on edibles.
Well, I mean, that's...
And that I hallucinated on... They're going to look at me like, what? Edibles? That's nothing.
No, they would have made fun of me.
Yeah, they would have... I make fun of myself till this day.
Well,
I think it's the funniest thing, but not
funny.
when I went through it.
No.
I was drowning.
Yeah.
That was not a good situation.
It doesn't sound fun. It doesn't sound... Okay, next question. Next question. So, my next question. How do you know when you're at your best and when you're at your worst?
Well, because I went and I sought a therapist and I was able to absorb the tools that they gave me, not only for that situation, but just for life in general, I was able to come up with what I like to call a life meter. And the reason why I had to come up with a life meter, because after that situation, reached another rock bottom.
Okay.
Which I don't even think that was my rock bottom. The one that happened after was. But after that, I was able to get up and I didn't have to seek a therapist because I came up with this life meter.
Okay.
So the life meter consists of 5 different, I would say, categories, right?
Okay.
And I'm going to start from the bottom one and work my way up.
Exactly.
So we have first, I have this written down, I have the crisis mode. Okay. So crisis mode is when you're on the floor and there's no more way to go down because you're already at the bottom of the bottom.
You're rock bottom.
You've given up in life.
Okay.
And you're pretty much just done. Okay. Right? So that's crisis mode. Okay. Then we have struggling. Struggling is when you want to live, but you just don't know how to.
Okay.
Right? So that's that struggle where it's like, I don't want to give up, but I just don't know how to make my way out of here. Then I also have coping mode.
Okay.
So coping mode is like the intermediate. It's pretty much you've accepted that you have a problem. You acknowledged it. You want to actually find a way to get out of it.
Okay.
So that's that middle. It's where there's acceptance. I know there's something. What can I do to get out of it? Then we have flourishing.
Okay.
Flourishing is pretty much your awakening. You're awakened. You are no longer in survival mode, right? You are in this stage where you just want to be better. You're using the tools that were given to you. And then the last one is the thriving. Thriving is when you're on your positivity mode. Even though negative things come your way, you always look for a positive outcome no matter what. So once I know what stage I've fallen in, I know whether or not I need to seek help.
Yeah.
So if I go to my coping, which is my survival, that's where I'm like, Sarai, you need to seek a therapist because it's beyond you.
Okay.
And if you don't, you're going to hit rock bottom again.
Got it.
Right? If I also, and when I'm in my thriving, I also keep myself in check though. Because thriving is where I'm like my happiest go lucky. I find the positivity, but I do realize that when I get too much of it, I know I'm going to go back down. Because they say that when you're your happiest is not linear, it's up and down. So when you're enjoying your greatest moments, just know that there's a fall right after, and you need to learn to be okay with that.
Well, that's what
life is about.
That's what I was gonna ask you. So when you've reached in your life meter, if let's say you've reached the highest peak that you're saying is the thriving.
Yes.
Can you go back down?
Absolutely. But here's the difference. You will never hit that bottom. You will never hit that crisis mode.
Okay.
Why? Because you now have tools to catch yourself before you get there. It's not that you're not going to go down, because in life we all have our ups and downs. But you only go to the very bottom when you don't have those tools. Or if you don't use those tools.
If you don't use them.
Some people can have the tools and not use it, and then right back they go.
Okay.
Right? But if you have this, I think, meter, the minute you feel, you know where you are. Like when I said I was down one point, I felt that point go down. And I was like, okay, something's up with me. What's going on? Let me go look for those tools, see how I can get out the funk.
Got it.
You know what I mean? But you have to know yourself in order to be able to get that. And you also have to reach pretty much your awakening. Because if you don't reach your awakening, your whole life you're yo-yoing, but you're yo-yoing from coping to crisis.
Okay.
Coping crisis, because you haven't had that aha moment where you can look at life in a different perspective. And once you have a different perspective, you know where to go from there.
Yeah.
If you haven't reached that, right now you're struggling. You're just living day to day on autopilot, not knowing why things are going bad, and you're just looking at things in such a negative way that there's no light. But the minute you get to see the light and you reach that peak, believe me, anything that comes your way, you'll be able to maneuver it.
I like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to start using that. Because I think it's very helpful, and I think that if that's a tool that you're using, and if that's helping you out, then that's great that you're sharing it with everybody, and people can use that.
Yes, just know where you and only you know where you really are.
Yeah,
you could only be honest with yourself. But if you ever reach the point where it's like, I don't know what to do, I hit a wall. Yeah, that's when that therapist comes in. Yeah, because sometimes a friend can't solve that problem.
Yeah, you can't always count on.
Like second time around was my worst, but I was able to use the tools from my first time and my friends that I didn't have to seek a therapist. But in any minute, if I feel that something's out of my hands, or maybe I just need more tools, new situation, believe me, I have no problem going back.
Listen, so this brings me to the next question, and I'm glad that we ended off with friendship.
Yes.
Because I want to know, do you know someone who is suffering right now, and how do you think that you can help them?
Well, I feel like the only way that you can help them is if they want to be helped.
Yeah, I agree.
Right? Because I can sit here and tell you 1,000,001 ways how you can better yourself, but if you're not ready to do it because you want it, it's going to go in one ear and out the other.
I agree. I think that's what happens a lot.
Yes.
That we have friends and we notice that there's something going on. We notice that there's a downfall, because who knows you best than your friends, your closest friends and your family. But sometimes your friends know you more than your family. Yes. And you want to help them, but if you can't help them, if they don't see it or they refuse to see it, then it's a little difficult to help them.
Well, that's different.
Yeah.
That's if they don't see
Yeah.
that they have an issue, right?
Yeah.
And you're over here trying to help them, then I also do have a solution for that.
Okay.
Like, my solution when you see that somebody is in a crisis situation where they're just being negative, they are either depressed for whatever the reason, and you're out here giving them solutions, trying to help them, but they do not want to accept it, then the only thing that I suggest for your well-being is for you to walk away. Because if you don't, then they're going to pull you down with them if they don't want to seek help. It's different if they're trying and you see that they are, but obviously it takes time. I'm not saying leave that person to die or like whatever. No, that's not the case. But if you see that this person does not want to change and they're okay with their toxic behavior, because it does become toxic when you're not seeking help, then you need to gracefully create a boundary, you know, and love them from afar. I'm not saying that you're not going to be there when they do actually call you and say, hey, I need the help, but don't let them bring you down, because it only takes one person to bring you down.
Yeah,
it really does. Just like it only takes one person to actually help and save you.
Exactly. So
as human beings, we have to be there for each other, but know your limits, know your boundaries.
Yeah, I agree. That's happened to me. I don't want to say a couple of times, but I do know a few people that it has been a little difficult for them, and I was one of those people. I realized that I started drowning my friends.
Yes.
I was becoming that toxic person to my friend. And I'm sure that I was becoming toxic to you as well.
No, I don't think I allowed you. It's like, not here, not today.
But it is very difficult because sometimes going back a question, sometimes you're unaware that you're becoming toxic. Sometimes you're so into your own head that you don't even realize what you're doing. But then when you are receiving the advice or you're receiving the help from another individual and you're actually taking it, that's a step forward. Now, when you are not, and when you are refusing, when you're saying absolutely not, I'm not like this, I don't do this, and you just want to argue with people all day and you just want to contradict what everybody says, that's completely different.
It is. And you know, I'm glad that you did point that out, because I think that we should, as just peers and human beings, whenever you feel that someone's doing something that you don't agree with them, or something that, you know what, I can no longer be with you, I think we should be more vocal about it. Because if we are, then we can start creating self-awareness. Like, for example, if every time that somebody tells you, okay, something's going on with you, you need help, right? Instead of them just walking away and you never knowing, wouldn't it have helped if they told you, like, listen, you're being too much, therefore I'm going to walk away from you? Wouldn't that then make you reflect and be like, okay, I notice this is a pattern, so maybe I should be doing something?
I think it would have helped if people would. Well, when I say that I had a mental health problem or I had a crisis, it was more within me.
Of course.
I had low self-esteem. I had no self-respect, no self-dignity, no nothing. When it started affecting other people, when I started becoming now toxic, because I was toxic to myself. Then I started becoming toxic to other people. I think that it would have helped if people would have called me out on it.
Absolutely.
But like been specific with it.
Yes.
Say, listen, you, let's just say, for instance, you tolerate X and Y behavior from, I don't know, a spouse. And now you are doing the same thing to me. I think that would have helped me a lot.
Yes, it would
Because
have.
you would, let's say you would have said it, and then another person would have said it, and then I would have said,
eventually you would have connected the dots.
I would have said 6 people are telling me the same thing, and then I think I would have been a little bit more aware. But I think also in a compassionate way.
No, absolutely.
The way that you say
it's not what you say, it's how you say it, right?
Yeah.
But that brings me to the point that if we were more communicative, and we would be able to say things for what they are, people will be much healthier.
Yes.
But the problem is that we're just like, you know what? F you, I'm not dealing with this and I'm out. But what did that solve, right? So we're still leaving a person who needs help behind, who now is not going to fix themselves. They're only going to continue. And we're leaving the problem for the next person that comes to meet you, right? Instead of having that compassion, that empathy of taking the time to just say, hey, listen, I don't know if anybody has told you this, but this isn't working for you. Do it a different way. And then you can also still walk away. But you walked away with leaving crucial information for a human being to better themselves. You know what I mean? If more people did that, things would be much easier. Instead of just, no, I'm out.
Absolutely.
That does nothing.
So what do you think are some, not what do you think, but what are some available resources that our viewers can have out there?
I mean, for sure, the one that I seeked, the initial one, was I went online and I did Google research at like 3 a.m. and I came across a program from BetterHelp. Where I was able to text them in the middle of the night and a therapist got back to me right away, and then we scheduled our appointment, but they were able to talk to me for a few just to get me through that night.
I did BetterHelp.
So BetterHelp did help. You can also look at positive podcasts that talk about mental health.
I also, so I did the BetterHelp like you because you suggested it. And then I also, because you can shop around for your therapist. Don't just think that you have one therapist and then you're stuck with that therapist. No. Yes. I also called my insurance and I just asked them for therapists around me.
Some insurance covers, some don't. That's where you have to look.
Also, looking through the podcast, like you said. And also I started looking, it may sound silly, but I started looking for like YouTube, like little, they're like shorts. They're like YouTube shorts. And they were of podcasts and of like affirmational people that like, what do they call motivational speakers? They're not called motivational.
Yeah, they have like TED Talks.
Like TED Talks.
Yes.
Yeah. So then I started doing that stuff. But there's
reading,
a lot of
reading is the best. Look, reading is not only good for your mental health. It's just good for your, how can I explain? Just for you to better get knowledge, to educate yourself.
Your language,
your perspective. Reading books are such a powerful tool, and I think that they're getting lost a little bit. But if you're not a reader, there's also now even audiobooks, which, I love me an audiobook. I go to sleep to an audiobook. She hates it, but I like to go to sleep with positive thoughts. So I like to either put affirmations, listen to an audio, or just sometimes just mellow music, anything that will help soothe me, that will help get those negative thoughts out of my mind.
Because you have to remember that it's like everything that you intake, it is going to affect you. So if you start listening, we had a big
yes, we did. Okay. I know where this is going.
We had a big discussion about, I mean, I think this is one of our first, it wasn't a fight, right? No, but it's like, it's an argument that just will not stop. I'm sure we're going to have it again tonight.
Oh yeah. Live.
That I like to listen to true crime. So I don't have a lot of time in my hands. So my downtime is the nighttime. So I listen to true crime in the nighttime. And I fall asleep to my true crime, and I love it.
And she wakes up to, oh my God, did this happen or that happen? And she wakes up anxious because of true crime. So I am like, that should not be the last thing that you listen to. But like, you could listen to it at night, but before you go to sleep, put something positive, something that's not negative, something that doesn't involve death, disappearance.
Well, sometimes it's true crime, but sometimes they find the person.
Okay.
Or sometimes the missing person ends up,
Okay, great. But what does that do for Alexandra, who's trying to better and improve herself? You know what I mean? Like, where's that? Because they say, and hear me out, people. Because they say that the last thing that you listen to, you wake up with that mental state.
Yeah, that's what they say.
That's what they say. I think that they're right. You may disagree with me. But I always think that your subconscious, whatever you intake, it stays back there. And it could be the most smallest things, but then it comes forward to your what is it? When it comes forward, it's not your subconscious, it just comes to the front. What happened to me at the age of Jesus, 33, right? Everything that I was intaking and holding on to, when I decided to take that beautiful, delicious cookie, it came forward. So we do absorb. We're in the era of a lot of absorption because there's a lot of information being thrown at us. So try to absorb to get information.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah. I just gotta schedule my true crime accordingly.
That's all. Thank you. That will make me very happy. So we hope that after sharing our stories and advice, we sparked the conversation where your mental health should not go untreated.
Absolutely. Let's remember to have some compassion for ourselves and each other.
Thank you for tuning in to Sip, Spark, and Share. Always remember, we're the podcast that walks you through your thoughts. Bye. Tune in next week, same time, same place.